Egota no Mori Park. It was originally home to a tuberculosis clinic, but these days it was nothing more than a park. A beautiful park full of greenery and ponds, and people enjoying a leisurely stroll through it. But also a park said to be one of the most haunted locations in all of Tokyo. As she walked through the park, surrounded by others out and about, she couldn't help but wonder. This place, it felt so dark, so dreary, so different to the areas just a few hundred meters away. Were all the people walking past her actual humans? Or were they, perhaps, something else? She walked through that park often, but only in daylight. She would never ever step foot there after dark. Even during the day, with the trees high above, the walking path was dim and creepy. A chill ran down her spine, and she wanted nothing more than to pass through as quickly as possible. There was something else she found interesting about the park. On 3 sides, it was surrounded by a river, making it feel even more enclosed and isolated in this massive city of cities. Like a tiny piece had been carved out and existed in a different space and time. Water attracted spirits, and with the rumours of how many had died here in the past, perhaps some of them were still hanging around, unable to move on. The place made her not just scared, but also sad. And also a little worried that, during her weakest moments, for some reason, she found herself being drawn back there. Although it's a popular park these days, Egota no Mori Park used to house the Tokyo City Sanatorium, built in 1919 to house tuberculosis patients. It also served as a welfare facility for the poor, and it said that in the pre-war days, 80% of the patients there passed away during their stay. The hospital was then expanded in May 1962. A new ward was built with 10 floors and a basement. This new building was able to hold over 1,000 patients, and the name was changed to National Sanatorium Nakano Hospital. This hospital ran until October 1st, 1993, when it was then integrated into the National International Medical Center in Shinjuku, and the building was torn down. You can find reports from people who supposedly visited the ruins before they completely disappeared, but there seem to be no photos of the building online today. One famous patient of the sanatorium was Tachihara Michizo, a promising poet and architect. He left behind writings describing the building as his childhood playground. He would often evade the guards to play in the forest and fish in the pond near the hospital. He became a patient at the hospital in 1930, when he was 16, and would continue visiting the hospital until he died at the age of 24. He was just one of the many patients, up to 80% it would seem, who died there. And that, no doubt, is why Egota no Mori Park is now thought to be one of the most haunted parks in all of Tokyo. What makes this location unique is the ease of access, and how most people find it scary not just at night, but during the day as well. It's said to be so bad that spirit mediums refuse to go in there. In particular, the spirits haunting the area are said to hang around the west side of the forest, which is where the old sanatorium used to be. But it's not just patients who died at the hospital that makes this park so creepy. There's another ghastly rumour regarding the area that's quite, well, off-putting. According to the rumours, the old hospital used to carry out human experiments during the war. It's said that organs were also removed from the bodies of the deceased and used in tests and experiments, and when they were done with them, they were buried on the hospital grounds. But they ended up with so many bodies and organs that at one point, they simply had them lying around in buckets. The police reportedly got wind of this and paid the hospital a visit, causing massive problems because of the way they were illegally disposing of body parts. Naturally, there's no proof that any of this happened. There were certainly no newspaper reports at the time of police raids, illegal experiments, or organ dumping. The hospital was also not an isolation ward, so patients could come and go as they pleased. It was open to all, and there's also no evidence it was ever taken over by the military during the war. It's a fact that a large number of patients died here, yes, but there's no evidence that anything illegal or untoward happened with their bodies. It's likely that these rumours started after stories began to spread of the park being haunted. And once people discovered that a sanatorium had sat on that land for 70 odd years. During the mid to late 1990s, the internet still wasn't very common, nor was it easy to find accurate information, so it was easy for stories to spread that the former hospital in Egota that was torn down was actually run by the army, and they conducted all sorts of experiments there. Another common story in the area is of 3 men running around in white coats with scalpels and covered in blood. If they see you, they'll chase after you, and, of course, if they catch you, it won't end well. Were these doctors involved in the supposed experiments or illegal organ removal? Who knows? Another interesting ghost that has been seen in the area is the woman in red. This woman is said to hide behind a tree as you approach where the old hospital used to be. When you notice her, she makes a gesture towards the hospital and then crosses her arms in an X. She doesn't want you to go there, and her face seems to say the same thing. Don't come any closer. If you ignore her, well, maybe you'll run into the doctors with scalpels. It's probably best not to find out. These days, the hospital no longer remains, but the creepy atmosphere does, if you're into that sort of thing. Best of all, the park is easy to access and free to visit. So if you'd still like to see an interesting piece of Tokyo's history, Egota no Mori Park is right there. If you see the lady in red though, maybe heed her advice and don't go any further. Shakuji Park. A group of 6 friends were travelling around Tokyo visiting various ghost spots. The final stop on their tour was Shakuji Park, a rather large and beautiful park in Nerima Ward. They heard about a mound that was supposed to be haunted, but after searching for it for close to 20 minutes, they were unable to find it. The group decided to go home. It was getting late, and they'd seen enough for one night anyway. One young man hung behind with his friend as the other 4 walked ahead of them. Everyone was chatting and joking, and the atmosphere was cheerful. But as they were passing the pond, the young man heard a sound from the water. It sounded like something breaking the surface. He looked fearfully at his friend, and they turned around. Nothing was there. Perhaps they were just hearing things. He turned back and continued talking to his friend. This time, he heard footsteps on the gravel behind them. His friend heard it too. This time, they didn't turn around. They took off running as fast as their feet would carry them. "Run!" they screamed as they ran past their 4 friends. It wasn't until they reached the exit that they stopped to turn around. Nobody was there, but just for a moment, the young man saw what looked like the figure of a person disappearing back into the lake. One of his friends later told him that there used to be a castle on the park grounds, and the owner of that castle died in the lake. Did that mean the figure he saw was... Shakuji Park is located in the west of Tokyo and is one of the largest parks in the city. It houses 2 ponds, several small Shinto shrines, and the remains of Shakuji Castle. If you believe the rumours, it's also home to several ghosts. Shakuji Castle was ruled by the Toshima clan in the 1400s. In 1477, the then leader, Toshima Yasutsune, fought against the armies of Ota Dokan in the Kyotoku Rebellion. Toshima lost, however, and retreated to his castle as the Ota armies advanced. Seeing that his time was near, it's said Toshima grabbed his family treasure, the golden saddle, and fled from the back of the castle on his white horse. The Ota soldiers watched him as both Toshima and the horse went over a cliff and into the Sanpoji Pond. Toshima's daughter, the beautiful Teruhime, was so sad at her father's death that she followed him into the pond and drowned as well. Ota felt pity for her and held a memorial service for her death, building a burial mound that came to be known as Himetsuka, Princess Mound, which you can still visit in the park today. It was said back in the day that if you climbed the old pine tree by the side of the mound, you could see both Toshima and his golden saddle radiating brilliantly at the bottom of the pond. A festival is now held in the area each year called Teruhime Matsuri, which includes processions around the park and stage plays of the above story. But that isn't where the story ends. In modern times, people claim that you can see the face of a woman floating in the pond, perhaps Teruhime herself. If you stare into the surface of the water, before long you'll find a woman's face staring back at you. In addition, if you point your camera towards the pond to take a picture, it's said that a woman will appear in the photo. Not quite human, not quite mist, but something in between. But that's still not all. Legend goes that ever since the Edo period, lovers who meet by the lake will meet a disastrous end. A beautiful woman on a white horse, sound familiar? Appears out of the water, beckoning the man to her. Unable to resist her lure, the man follows her into the water, disappearing forever. The next day, the woman finds herself drawn to the pond, and can be heard muttering, "The golden saddle calls. There's a castle in the pond," before she too disappears, never to be seen again. Rumours then spread in the 1980s that a police officer was killed by the pond, and that a crazy old man jumped into the pond in the middle of winter and drowned, just like Toshima and Teruhime before him. The area has since become a famous hotspot for ghost sightings, and even people looking for the lost treasure of the Toshima clan. Residents of the area also claim that if you walk around the pond at night, you can feel a presence following you. As an aside, and entirely unrelated to the story of Toshima and his daughter Teruhime, in 1993, there were eyewitness reports of a giant crocodile in the Sanpoji Pond. Quite a bit of fuss was kicked up, but in the end, the giant crocodile was never found. Maybe it was looking for the Toshima family gold as well. But what did you guys think of this one? Are there any other haunted locations you'd like me to explore? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to help support this channel so you can see more content like this, please consider hitting that join button down below as well. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys, and I'll see you again next time.